This case is written from the perspective of Miss Jade, an English teacher who tries to protect her female students from the sexism and the sexual harassment that was so prevalent in this particular school culture. After several twists and turns, we find Miss Jade at crossroads. Should she press for educational interventions that would benefit her students and the school, despite the fact that they may cause initial discomfort and resistance? Should she challenge the status quo that has been detrimental to the female student population, or should she acquiesce to the status quo? Students are asked to associate the requirements of educational leaders under Title IX, as well as the rights of students under the law as they relate to the case.
I asked you to read the case, the social justice English teacher. Can I have some preliminary reactions, what you thought of the story? Maybe we should start with what happened. Abby?
Okay, so, well, the teacher, Jay, was having issues in class with, just like the males, like sexism basically, and like the males thinking they're better than the females, especially with like not necessarily better, but like, explain, like, with the book example, that stuck out to me when they would read books by female authors, they wouldn't feel like it applied to them, like, yeah, the women were always reading books by male authors, so just kind of stuff like that.
Okay, I think that Abby brings up a good point. So one of the facts of the case is, what's the teacher's name?
Jade.
Jade is struggling with some of the norms of the school, and one of the norms is that there's sort of a culture of male privilege inside and outside the classroom. So how did that make you feel, and can we relate that to our own experience? You had the experience of reading text by all male authors in your English class. Did you have a more egalitarian curriculum? Have you never thought about it, but maybe you've never even thought about that before? Like, what are the stories that you're reading about, and who are they about, and who are they written by? Let's talk some personal experience. Think back to your middle school, to your high school, to your English classes. This is English methods, right? So we should be thinking about very intentionally the text that we're choosing for our students to read. So what were your experiences?
Well, to be honest, I can't really remember specifically whether the author was male or female of the books we read, but I do know that we read mostly traditional novels, so I think can be safe to assume most of them were male authors, which I think says a lot.
And the fact that you didn't think about it says a lot too. Do you remember the term for the traditional novels or texts?
Classic literature? The canon?
Classic literature's good. The canon, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Other thoughts?
I know most of my stories, the main character was male, and almost every single one that we read. I cannot remember, except for Catherine Called Birdie. That's the only book I remember from 4th grade that had a female lead role.
How does that make, did you ever think about that
I did
before?
not. I never thought of that. Because, honestly, I think the boys would have complained if we had books about girls. Because nobody read Catherine Called Birdie. They hated it. And
Interesting.
yeah, I think that the males would have responded not so well to it.
How does that make you feel?
I mean, now that I think
Making
back
my
on
head
it,
tingle.
I never thought about it before, but I guess, yeah, that's kind of bothersome.
So what's the message there that the boys are some of the boys are sending when they say things like that?
The more I think, sorry, Kayla, I know you're raising your hands. I'll just say real quick, but my 6th graders are reading Hatchet. You know, the main character in that novel is a boy. And the girls are okay with reading it, but I can't help but wonder how the boys would feel if they were reading this novel and it was a girl main character, you know, that was playing the role of Brian.
So what's the lesson there? When there is resistance to the speaker of the text, what is the message? Can anyone answer the question that I just asked about what's the message that the resistors would be sending? What's the lesson there? What are they really saying?
They
What's
don't
the
have
implicit?
respect really for that opposite sex.
Or that those stories aren't important? Yeah. Kayla?
At my high school, when our teachers give us like books to choose from,
one time, like, she'd do, like, one with all male authors, and the girls didn't say anything, but when she did one with all female authors, the boys didn't want to, like, read the books because it was by a female author. But it kind of made me mad because, like, those same boys were the ones where, like, girls should be, like, teachers and clean the house and cook and stuff, and that's all they should do.
What did the teacher do?
She just told them that they need to read the book because if, they think they can write a book, a girl can write a book just as equally, to try to, like, even it out. So they knew, like, if you want to be a doctor, a girl can be a doctor too. She could even be, like, a better one.
So I think maybe one of the lessons here from this case is, or issues is, why is it important to read beyond your own experience? Why did some of the males, not all, but some of the males in this case only want to read about people who are like them? And what does that teach students? So as teachers, why is it important for us to vary the points of view that we're utilizing textually in our classrooms? I know you have something to say. What do you think about that?
If we don't vary things, we're just gonna have a closed-minded classroom. So when people go out to the real world or experience college life, you know, they're not gonna know how to adapt to these situations. We're just making a closed-minded generation.
I have a couple things. The first is like the personal thing is that I did read even though it was a much smaller amount, I did read a lot of novels in my district curriculum that did have a strong female character in it. One of the more prominent ones being in high school, we read The Secret Life of Bees, which was a great one of the better books that I read in high school. And then my senior year in our English class, we had an entire unit dedicated to Emily Dickinson. Or at least that's what I think, right? Poet?
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure I was saying her name right. So we did talk about at least one famous female author in the form of Emily Dickinson. And then kind of going with what we were talking about with the idea of a strong female character in a book, that a lot of the ones that we may have read in our curriculums may have been more male lead characters, and that the guys would not be interested in it. That is one of the main point why I will argue that the Hunger Games trilogy is arguably the best book of our generation, because it hits both of them very strongly. It hits the female readers because of the strong female character that is the lead role in Katniss, but it is also can be read by guys because guys like that action kind of deal. Because that's why I read it, because I like the idea of the post-apocalyptic action kind of deal. And then once I started reading it, I really did start to enjoy Katniss as well. So it did kind of hit me in the exact opposite of what we're talking about.
Do you think it's a stereotype to say that all males would be into the action aspect? Really?
Yes.
That's definitely
yes,
a stereotype.
The only reason I say no is because I personally hate the word stereotype. It's one thing that I always,
we don't love stereotypes.
I hate it in general because I believe my entire life that stereotypes are meant to be broken. So that they're meant to be gone against.
But aren't you confirming the stereotype that all men would like an action novel?
I'm just
Should we say generalization then instead of
yes.
stereotype?
I think stereotype would be a little strong in a sense because there are guys that don't like that.
Right.
So I think generalization may be the better choice of words in that scenario.
Okay.
But I certainly think he makes an interesting point with the Hunger Games novel because it's a really strong female leading role, and I think it kind of does. It's just, I think it's a book you could get males to read and enjoy with a female character and a female author.
And many English teachers argue not validity, but I guess the literary value of the Hunger Games trilogy. So there's the debate against literature with a capital L and young adult novels, and is this true literature or not? So there's two sort of conversations operating at the same time with the Hunger Games: young adult versus literature, or canonized literature, and then is this actual quality writing?
What do you think?
Yeah,
I think there's room for everything. So I think that we need to intersperse we need to read our classic texts because we need to have knowledge of the power code and a lot of these, Shakespeare, Chaucer. We need to have exposure to that. But we also need to meet students' interests and need. We also need to move students beyond their comfort zones. So there's not one answer, there's multiple.
Would the Hunger Games be something that you would read in your class?
Yeah, sure. But I would also read Shakespeare.
Okay.
All right, so now, so yeah, you can start. Now that you've discussed the questions in your groups, I want you to think about some of the overall implications of the case, and you're going to come up here. I want you to keep in mind cultural responsiveness, keep in mind social justice, right, the goals of the teacher, and then I want you to talk about the outcome, and just list some ideas that you have. List the outcome of the case, list the ideal outcome, what could have happened or what should have happened in an ideal world. Write down what the theme of the case was, and then any connections you can make to other issues. Can you make connections to other things that we've read, to other things that we've talked about? So think about that. So when you have some ideas, come up and post them. See, or you can cut here, and then we're going to take
Well, I think maybe there could be influenced by the other male students. Like if they find out about the class where they're learning what they are and things like that, then males will be like, "Well, that's a stupid class," and then the girls don't want to kind of disagree with them or whatever, and it'll make them uncomfortable. So then they're like, "You know what? That is a
I
stupid
think
class."
that's a great thought. Yeah.
I kind of have answers to both, like why the teacher did it and why the students reacted the way they did. I think the teacher did it kind of what I wrote for the ideal outcome, the fact that she wanted the social change within the school itself. And I think the reason the students acted the way they did is I think she overwhelmed them. I think with what she did in her class within those first few days, the students were overwhelmed with what they were presented with and maybe the realizations they may have had with their real life that they probably encountered, and they were overwhelmed with it all and just couldn't handle it at the time. So I think she just went in too hard, too fast, and kind of just overwhelmed the girls with what she was presenting to them, and which is why they might have wanted to drop the class.
Can I have a counter example to that sentiment? Does anyone have a different take on it?
Like opposite from him or totally different? Either. I don't necessarily have something opposite, but I think that also some, females just actually genuinely don't realize that it's an issue, or they don't realize what's happening. They're just kind of blind to that. Because I remember when we had Take Back the Night here on campus, actually, there was a lot of posts on social media and stuff, and from females even, they just didn't get the message that was being sent. They just really, had negative things to say about it, about the speaker, and were just saying this isn't an issue.
That makes me very sad. And I think this goes along with what both of you are saying, and that is when we are a member of a minority group and we come to the realization that acts are being perpetrated on us, we have to admit that we are a vulnerable population, or that something bad can happen to us. And it's easier to say, oh, that doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Because that's like a sense of self-protection. So if we can say, you know what, sexism isn't a problem. Sexual harassment. So what I found was that with this story is me and whatever. It turned out awesome, which I'll tell you about in a minute. But what I found was that if a girl was sexually harassed, she would be outraged by it, but she could not find any common ground with the other girls. So if it happened to another girl, it was like, oh, she deserved it, or it just meant they were momentarily safe from that issue. Does that make sense? Isn't that crazy? They couldn't see their collective problem, and they didn't. It was such a toxic culture. Like the girls could not or would not bond with each other. They couldn't see their common problems, and they were so bent on gaining approval from the males because it was a culture that was steeped in male privilege, that they would be happy when another girl was sexually harassed. I know that you had your hand up and you wanted to say something.
Oh, it kind of just went along with Mitch. Like in our group, Abby said, she mentioned that for that, if she was going to start that program or like the class, then you do have to kind of start slow and gradually work your way up, because the students with that touchy subjects like that and getting them out of their comfort zone, it's a process, and you have to gain that trust between the students and the teacher.
Anything else? Yes.
Like, I understand how these girls may have felt, bringing back to like my own experience and everything. I never spoke up about anything because I felt I would get a target on my back,
Mhm.
that people would be against me.
And you might. Mhm.
And so I never spoke about what happened to me until college when we had that conference. I never said anything, nobody ever knew, because I felt I didn't want a target on my back. So I think maybe that's how these other females may have felt.
Yeah, that's an excellent point.